Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. This is Tony of Comic Conversations. On today's video, I'll be recapping part 1 of the 1966 Thor Ragnarok by Roy Thomas and art by John Buscema. The following takes place between Thor 272 and 278. And on today's video, I'll be recapping the events of issue 272. Alright, with that out of the way, let's go straight into our recap. A very real threat to Earth's existence has been vanquished. A danger ended. A mission successfully completed. Query: where after turmoil does a living, breathing thunder god go when the song of battle fades? Answer: Thor notices a test of strength ensues below. One so unequal as to rouse Thor's ire. It's a bunch of younger kids being picked on. One of the boys notices a wind stirring up. It's Thor. Thor apologized for the intrusion. Perhaps it was a private affair, he says. One of the children recognize him as Thor of the Avengers. Thor sensed a disparity in stature in the protagonist. He was merely even in the odds. One of the children wished they were big enough to run off the bully himself. Thor speaks about the true nature of bullies. One of the children is quick to point out, since when does the God of Thunder know anything about being little and picked on? He's never read anyone getting the best of Thor in battle. The God of Thunder is quick to correct the child with a story of his own. Years ago, Thor and Loki found themselves in a forest of giant trees. The siblings were lost. The God of Thunder states he's never scared, so long as he has use of his good right arm. Loki is quick to quote Odin. He is sorely lacking in humility. Thor says what does he have to fear when he wields raging lightning in his mystic hammer? Just when the brothers think they won't find any shelter before nightfall, they come across an oddly shaped cave. Thor and Loki enter the cave. Loki feels the ground beneath him start to shake. Before Loki can finish the sentence, Thor points out the shaking has stopped. The God of Thunder volunteers to stand guard while his younger brother gets some sleep. Loki agrees because he was the one who found the cave, but asks Thor to wake him if he is threatened. During Loki's nap, the ground repeatedly shook, but at no point were the brothers ever in danger. A refreshed Loki points out with a rising sun they now have a guide to their path when he notices the cave the two had stayed in were the clothing of a giant bigger than any frost giant in Asgard. The quakes were the giant snoring. A panicked Loki notices the giant is waking. He asks Thor to slay it, but the God of Thunder is quick to point out he has done them no harm. Thor wants to know more about this giant and his land. The giant introduces himself as Scir, quite literally translates to big fellow. Thor informs the giant they spent the night in the glove. The giant asks what they were doing in the land of Utgard. The giant informs him that he must be at the hall of Utgard by tomorrow, and he has no time for Loki and Thor's questions. The siblings follow the giant. If anyone knows the quickest, surest way out of the towering forest, it's him. After a long time of walking, the sun would again set and darkness would fall across the land. The giant again lay down for the evening. A hungry Thor asks the giant for some food. Scir offers them anything in his bag. Thor offers thanks. All the giant asks in return is not to wake him with their munching. The giant falls asleep and the quakes of his snoring return. The knot of the giant's lunch sack proves to be too tight for the near limitless power of Thor. With no options left, the God of Thunder strikes the giant with all his might. The impact is just enough to wake the sleeping giant from his light nap. The giant asks if a leaf dropped lightly on his head. Maybe an acorn or a bird droppings. A speechless Thor thinks over the recent events. This is the first time his enchanted hammer, Mjolnir, has failed him. The giant asks the two to follow him to Utgard Hall. Each footstep from the giant would leave a crater-sized hole in the ground. After walking, they finally arrived to Utgard Hall, a giant castle so big that even a boastful and proud Thor found himself scared. Loki is starting to think they would have been better off lost in the forest. The brothers, having lost their giant friends in awe of the giant castle, come across a king. Thor says he doesn't seem to notice we're here. Loki responds, "Do we notice the presence of ants at our castle?" A proud Thor is quick to correct Loki. Thor is no ant. Son of Odin, God of Thunder, will be noticed right now as he strikes his hammer to the ground, creating an echo. Thor is successful in getting the giant's attention, but not in the way he'd preferred. The giant asks what the tiny vermin wants from Utgard, master of Utgard Hall. After a quick introduction, the giant tasks the gods of Asgard with 5 tasks to prove themselves worthy. The king summons Loki. Notices a similarity in their names. Loki volunteers for the first challenge. Thor is quick to point out how brave his brother is when looking at Loki's slight stature. The challenge? Whoever can eat the greater portion of food shall be the victor. A famished Loki, excited, starts the challenge and asks who can best him. The king would create a second meal equal to the first. The skinny giant would devour the entire meal, plates and a table with a single gorge. The king asks if the two will just admit defeat and accept their imprisonment, or are they ready for the next challenge, a race. Loki again would volunteer to a foot race with the chubby Hugi. Before Loki could get out of his starting blocks, the race was already over. Again, the gods would face defeat. An angry thunder god has seen enough. He will volunteer for the next contest. Thor is tasked with drinking a giant horn filled with water extended far beyond the castle. After 3 big gulps, the horn was still full, as though Thor had never even attempted to drink the vast amounts of water. An angry Thor will not admit defeat. He thinks the test false. An amused king agrees to offer the god of thunder with another task. So simple even a child can perform it, he says. Lift the house cat off the floor and the 2 gods will be set free. A jealous Loki asks why couldn't he be tasked with such an easy challenge. The god of thunder, try as he might with all of his strength, could not even lift one paw off the floor. And while they were unsuccessful yet again, Loki laughs at the sight of his boastful brother yet again humbled. Having failed 4 of the 5 challenges, Thor asks for the last challenge. The king replies, "The next shall be the easiest of all." Having been so amused by their plight, he will offer the gods their freedom if they can defeat this one challenger. The king summons his weak, frail mother. Thor again with all his might cannot move the elderly woman. She quickly grabs Thor with a loose grip. Thor cannot escape her grasp. The god of thunder is grateful that his all-father Odin is not there to see his sons ingloriously defeated. Thor grows weaker by the second. The king calls off his mother. Even having failed all 5 challenges, the brothers stay in defiance. They shall continue to fight on. They will not admit defeat. The king replies perhaps he was wrong about the 2. The king says it is time to reveal to the 2 of them the truth. He is Scir, the giant they met in the forest. The bag they tried to open earlier was sealed by magic, a kind that no god or giant could undo. When Thor thought he was striking the sleeping giant's chest, he was shattering a mountain. Loki asked why did he trick Thor. During Loki's feast challenge, Loki was tricked in competing with a roaring flame. Who can devour things faster than a flame? During the race challenge, Hugi was nothing more than a thought. Even lightning itself cannot compete with the speed of a thought. During the horn challenge, Thor could not empty the horn because the other side was placed in the ocean. The cat was a gargantuan Midgard serpent that girdled the earth and hold the seas in place. The king says he wanted to test the gods because he wanted to know if they were strong enough to stand against the giants. If they were not strong enough, they would invade Asgard and bring about Ragnarok a millennia sooner than Norfates predicted. His mother was in fact Eli, the personification of old age itself. Her grip temporarily stripped Thor of his youth. By refusing to surrender, Thor and Loki may have not won, but they also didn't lose. They have proven their worthiness to rule the cosmos. An angry Thor wishes to do battle with the giant. Now that the 2 gods were aware of the spells that the giant cast, he would remove the very last spell he cast over the 2. The spell of Utgard Hall. The land of the giants disappeared. Everything, the castle, the forest, and the giant itself. It's then that Thor realized that despite his strength and his magic hammer, there are billions and billions of worlds out there. Perhaps there is still someone out there that could rival or eclipse the god of thunder's strength. It's then that the boy realizes that no matter how strong someone may be, there will always be someone stronger out there. It's best to just worry about taking care of yourself. End of issue 272, part 1. Thanks again for checking out my video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Keep your eyes open for part 2. And as always, check you guys out next time. Adios.